What's the wildest confession you have sworn to never tell outside Reddit? Story 1. I ended up with three different girls who all had boyfriends over the course of two wild, drunken nights, and now I can't really talk to anyone I know about it. Here's how it went down. It all started with a deal I made with my best friend to do a 2-week no-soloing challenge. We had a big event planned for the weekend, and we wanted to be at our peak, full of energy and testosterone, so we could really enjoy ourselves. I only slipped up once during that time, relieving myself after a night at the bar the weekend before the event. Finally, the weekend arrived, and we were both buzzing with energy, getting told nonstop that we were lighting up the room. We threw a party in our hotel room with some friends, and that's when things took a turn. I was initially just having fun, enjoying the night and making memories. But soon my need for attention and affection kicked in, and I couldn't help myself. By the end of the night, about 5 or 6 girls I flirted with had boyfriends, which made my morals start to fade, and testosterone took over. The sixth girl I went for was a cute Asian girl who had flown in for the event. She was with a friend, and though she said she had a boyfriend, she was clearly flirting with me. It didn't take long for me to figure out what she was after, and before I knew it, I was following her back to her hotel room. We hooked up until we both passed out. Her roommate came back with someone too and walked in on us, but we just laughed it off at the time. The next morning we talked awkwardly, exchanged Instagram info, and I left. Her excuse for what happened was that her boyfriend back home didn't fulfill her needs. He was too passive, only played video games, and worked too much. I wasn't really buying it, but I was hungover and just wanted to get out of there. As far as my friends know, I hooked up with someone who was single that night. The next night, I tried to pace myself with drinking, but things took a weird turn when a girl vomited all over our bathroom. My dad instincts kicked in, and I immediately sobered up to clean it up without making a big deal of it. Apparently, about 5 minutes later, she left with a guy to go hook up. I was pissed because she didn't apologize or even thank me for cleaning it up. So I cleaned myself up, poured more booze to get back into the party mood, and carried on. Side note, the girl who vomited also had a boyfriend and ended up sleeping with another guy. So I got drunk again, and by this point, everyone was waiting on me to head to another party. Enter candidate number 2, a friend from our group who I had been drinking with platonically for the past 2 nights. I genuinely think she's a cool person. Somehow, while trying to finish our drinks before going out in public, we got separated from the rest of the group and ended up elsewhere. When we finally made it to the party we were supposed to be at, we couldn't find anyone we were with. They disappeared. So it was just me and her. We hung out with some other people I recognized for a while before setting out to find our group again. We ended up in a quiet parking lot, and the tension was high. We started making out, and it escalated. But before things got physical, she mentioned again that she was in a poly relationship and thought about texting her boyfriend but decided not to. This situation felt a little strange because while I knew she was poly, the fact that she didn't tell her boyfriend made me feel like I was crossing a line. After we were done, we started walking to my hotel room, and we ran into a couple I recognized. I was still pretty drunk and the night was young, so I invited them to join us for drinks after chatting with them because they seemed like cool people. I'm not sure how it came up, but at some point, the girlfriend openly admitted to her boyfriend that she wanted to do it with me. That set the stage for what felt like a 4-way banging session in the making. Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't believe me. So, my poly friend disappeared, and it was just the three of us. I briefly thought about backing out, but by then I was in a chaotic headspace and let it happen. I don't know how, but most of my friends ended up finding us, and this was the one thing they knew about. They walked in while I was in the middle of it, and I started to panic, trying to manage the situation. That pretty much killed the vibe, so I decided to leave them to it and went back to my room to sleep. And that's pretty much the whole story. I just needed to get it off my chest, whether you believe me or not. I feel guilty about all three of them for different reasons, but I'm glad I could write it out. If it seems a little vague or lacking in details, it's because I don't want anyone from that night to recognize specific parts of the story. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. 2 months after my wedding, I cheated on my husband, and I don't plan on telling it to him. Early in our relationship, we faced the challenges of long distance, which was tough for both of us. During that time, we both strayed. although my actions were more prolonged and involved. After we moved in together, he discovered a journal where I had confessed to everything. I still can't believe I didn't keep it locked up, read it, and confronted me. He also admitted to his own infidelity. There were tears, confusion, and a few days of uncertainty, but we eventually worked through it. Fast forward to 2006. At my best friend's wedding, I had a one-night stand with a friend of the bride who had just gone through a divorce. In my mind, I convinced myself I was helping him, getting him back on his feet. In a way, I guess I did. He later became involved in a successful gubernatorial campaign and landed a position in the administration. But after the morning after, I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen again. I decided to turn over a new leaf. I moved in with my husband, and despite everything that had happened, we continued. He found my confession journal. We had our difficult conversation, and things seemed to settle down. He proposed, and in 2009, we were married. Then just 2 months after our wedding, I drove my husband to the airport for a conference. Since I was already in a major city, I decided to reach out to a friend I hadn't seen in a while, someone we'll call Dan. Dan is the kind of person who embodies chivalry. He opens doors, helps you into your seat, and insists on paying for everything. He's a real gentleman, and on top of that, he's towering at 6'5", which makes me at 5'9" feel small and dainty in comparison. Either way, we hang out, talk, eat, drink a crap ton of alcohol. Driven to confess by the ethanol, Dan blurts out how he hasn't had physical relations in over a year and is beginning to doubt himself with women and has even tried to think about guys. I make the appropriate soothing noises, and the evening goes on. We drink even more alcohol, including stopping on the way back to his apartment to pick up tonic for G&Ts, and once we get back to the apartment, we continue to chat. Dan had been unable to come to our wedding because of a work commitment, so I had actually brought the DVD with our wedding pictures on it to show him. That's right, I was showing him my wedding pictures when things got nasty. I was sitting on his lap, because of no other chairs in his bedroom, and realized that I was wearing garters and stockings because they were pressed into him. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, I was on the floor in front of his fireplace. Things moved to bed eventually, and I'm pretty sure between the two of us, we woke up both his roommates. I later found out that it was the first time he had ever received blowy. He had just turned 29, and also his first time doing backdoor stuff. In my strange brain, I was kind of proud of all this, and very glad that he felt so much better about his sexuality and his prowess with women. Oh, and let me tell you, Redditors, in his year off, he had not lost his skill. The 3 or 4 times we did it that night was frigging fantastic. God, it was so good. However, on the drive back home the next morning, I had an attack of conscience. He'd already sent me some lurid texts, and one photo of his dong. I flipped out on him. I'm a married woman, you can be sending me crap like that, and on in that fashion. It was pretty horrible of me. I told him not to text me until I figured out my brain a little better. And that brings us up to today, my friends. I've somehow managed to not tell my husband, keep up the friendship with Dan, and I have absolutely no intention of ever telling my husband. It would do nothing but hurt him. And if I'm being honest with myself, sleeping with Dan was a public service, and I had been faithful for over 3 years. Mainly the reason I'm confessing is that I'm weakening again, and I'm trying to figure out if I can see Dan again. I'm a bad girl. Story 3. I've slept my way to the top. I'm sorry to all feminists. Throughout high school, my friends would often joke about me not being the brightest, and that my looks would carry me through life. I was really popular, dating the so-called cool kids and invited to all the parties. Boys would always try to talk to me, and I found that I could easily get them to do anything just to have some time alone with me. At first, I felt guilty about it, but it made navigating high school so much easier. In university, I was on my way over my head. Regretting that I should have tried harder in high school, I was looking at the textbook my parents struggled to get me, and I didn't understand not even the simplest of forms. I heard rumors that the professors were into girls and how people should watch their backs. One day while driving, I remembered how I got through high school, and I was pretty enough to do it again. After class, I stayed and asked the professor for some extra help wearing provocative clothes within school regulations. I was acting tipsy and dumb when asking for help. He leaned over my shoulder pretending to look at the textbook when he was clearly looking at my chesticles. I glanced over noticing he had a stiffy, and I told him I wasn't going to tell anyone if he helps me on the exams. Long story short, we banged in his car and I passed the exam with high marks. We did this over a course of a year. I'd just ping him on BBM, and 20 minutes later I'd hear a honk from a car outside. I ended up doing this with all my professors, and I took the money my parents were giving me for school to hire someone else to take the exam of the only female professor I had. I haven't seen her all year, so she wouldn't have recognized me. Fast forward 4 years later, I passed all my program courses with amazing marks, and no one questioned my grading. I was often worried someone would find out, or one of the students would suspect something, but no one noticed. My parents were proud of me, my friends were in shock, and my sister was jealous. I applied for a position at a large company. I prefer not to name it, and was surprised to get an interview. I was incredibly nervous because I was applying for a job in a field I wasn't familiar with. To cope with my nerves, I chose to dress in a way that felt confident to me, opting for a short skirt and a top. During the interview, I quickly realized the situation was uncomfortable, and I had to navigate it carefully. This interview was shooting fish in a barrel. The guy was clearly cheating on his wife and wanted me to work sleep with him. Over the past 4 years in my role, I've had the privilege of having my own office, a personal assistant, and a team of advisors. Despite the responsibilities, I've often felt unsure about my direction and what I'm doing. I've navigated through a lot of interpersonal dynamics in the workplace, and much of my day consists of responding to simple yes or no questions, answering phone calls, and listening to others' ideas for the company. During meetings, I tend to stay distracted, either browsing the internet or engaging in personal conversations with colleagues. I've been part of a few relationships at work, though none have been particularly serious. My compensation is quite generous, $120K a year, and I enjoy living in a beautiful home with my best friend. I've never had to present major work projects. My role has mostly involved offering my opinion. I'm not sure how much my input has directly impacted the company, but it's been an interesting experience nonetheless. I sometimes feel like I don't deserve this job. There are plenty of people who are more qualified for this position, and I've made enough money to retire comfortably. However, I can't help but feel guilty. I haven't contributed much to the company in the way I would have hoped. My actions and choices in the past have involved personal relationships that I now look back on with mixed emotions. I'm not necessarily sorry for the decisions I made, but I do regret the fact that I may have taken a valuable opportunity away from someone more deserving of the position. Story 4. My story might seem long and a bit lame, but I'll share it anyway. It all began with Jay, whom I met around 4 years ago at school. At first, I wanted nothing to do with him, but he really liked me. After I friend-zoned him, he was devastated and spent a year sulking, listening to angry music and complaining to his friends on MSN. Over time, he seemed fine with our friendship, and we became close because he lived nearby. Even though he still had feelings for me, things were good until family issues and school stress pushed me to rebel more. During this time, I continued to be friends with Jay, but I also did a lot of things I shouldn't have. I'll just list some of it. I gave two of his friends head in one night, hooked up with one of his best friends in a parking lot, had a friends with benefits situation with another, dated and slept with guy 1, flirted with and didn't sleep with guy 2, took Jay's virginity, slept with guy 3 and continued FWB with him, did the same with guy 4, had hookups at parties, and even casual encounters via Craigslist. These events happened between June 2011 and September. Between each hookup and every new guy I met, I would always return to Jay. I dragged him along at every step, knowingly leading him to believe that I liked him and that we were in a sort of pseudo-relationship. Whenever other plans fell through, I'd fall back on Jay. I took him for granted, making him set me up with his other friend just because I knew he would do it to make me happy. I'd call him whenever I wanted, and I knew he'd always pick up. I used him and I used his family too. I came to realize that I was dependent on him. He was the closest person I could call my best friend. Right before summer ended, I had banged with 4 different guys in just 4 days, Jay being one of them. He didn't know this though. After September, I finally realized how wrong everything was. Not that I hadn't known before, but this time it was different. I realized I actually needed Jay in my life, and I cared about him more than any of the other guys. Through everything, he stayed by my side, and because of that, I fell in love with him. I knew he loved me too. So I stopped seeing other guys and ended the reckless behavior. I decided to settle down with him and leave behind my past actions. But then, Jay found out about everything through one of my friends, and he stopped talking to me. 4 years of friendship, just like that, gone. He was the only guy my parents had really met and talked to, and his family felt like my family. Actually, they were like my family. I fully blame myself for everything. I know he did some things to hurt me, but they don't compare to the pain I must have caused him when he found out what I'd been doing while leading him on. I feel like I cheated on him, even though we weren't in an official relationship. I know life can be much worse, and I've gotten better in the months since, but this confession is filled with teen angst and drama, and while our actions might seem childish, they felt like everything at the time. This has had a huge impact on me, because he was the only friend who truly cared about me. I hate myself for being stupid, ignorant, and selfish. Was what I did really that bad? Am I overreacting to this? Can our relationship ever be repaired? TLDR, I destroyed 4 years of friendship and the possibility of a great relationship by being a or. Story 5. Ever since I lost my V card, there's been this secret desire burning deep within me that I can't seem to ignore anymore. It started out as just occasional thoughts during solo sessions, but now it's become a constant craving that consumes me completely. I want to let loose with multiple men at once. No strings, just me being their dirty little secret. It all began when I stumbled upon a website featuring group project scenes. The sight of 3 or 4 men taking turns, doing their thing, left me breathless, and before long I found myself watching these videos day after day, getting more and more excited with each passing minute. Before I knew it, I was addicted. I know what you're thinking. I must be some kind of freak, right? But the truth is, I'm just a regular girl with a wild fantasy. And trust me, I don't expect anyone to judge me for it. In fact, I hope that someday soon, I might find someone or several people willing to take part in my fantasy in real life. The thought sends shivers down my spine. My mind wanders back to those corn scenes, and suddenly I'm picturing myself on my knees, blowing their minds while 2 or 3 other men wait impatiently behind me. One guy steps forward, pulling me roughly to my feet and pushing me against the nearest wall. He slides and installs the pole from behind, while another man takes over from in front. Meanwhile, a third guy hovers above us, waiting to install his pole. For hours, we continue like this, switching, swapping, exploring, and discovering new things. By the time we've all reached the finish line, I'll be nothing more than a sweat-soaked mess, trembling with exhaustion and elation. But let's not get too carried away here. After all, I still live in the real world, where such things are frowned upon. For now, I content myself with fantasizing alone in my bedroom, imagining myself, maybe someday, if fate smiles upon me, my dreams will come true. Until then, I'll keep indulging in my filthy little secrets, relishing every moment of guilt-free pleasure I can find. Story 6. So as some of you know, my husband took me to Vegas for the weekend for our anniversary, and we had such an amazing time. Here is part 1 of how my adventures went out there. To show my man how appreciative I was, and how much I love him, I knew I had to be a good girl while there. I tried my best to please him and show how naughty I could really be. The first night, we got in and went to an amazing dinner at our favorite restaurant. We like the NYC version better, but it gets the job done in Vegas. I had on my new dress and some heels and got no shortage of stares from guys and dirty looks from women. I overheard 3 different ladies comment to themselves about how much of a whore I looked like in the bathroom at the restaurant. One of them even commented, "I wonder how much her date paid tonight." I just smiled and strutted as I walked by them on the way out. Jealous bitches. After dinner, I went down to the casino floor. That's now my favorite place to find confident guys who are down to come up to the hotel room and use me like I love to. I tried the roulette table for a bit, but no such luck. So sometimes I like just wandering around looking like I'm lost. It's a great way to entice guys to approach. It didn't take more than 5 minutes of wandering until one guy approached me. He was a bit short and kind of snobby, so I kept moving. Then this sexy, tall, muscular guy who had to be 6'4", he was substantially taller than me, and I'm 5'11" and my 6'5" in heels. He simply asked me if I needed any help finding something, and I told him yes, then locked eyes with him, giving him my best take me upstairs. look, not actually saying another word. Turns out I do, in fact, have that look in my repertoire. He asked if he could buy me a drink, and I told him I had some Tito's in my room if he wanted to go get one with me upstairs. He caught on very quickly. Sometimes I tell guys I find that I have a man. Other times, I just go with it and make sure I give him a good story when I'm done. It's just based on a gut feeling of whether or not I think they'll be down with this guy. I think I didn't want to scare him away. He was really hot. I took his hand as we walked towards the elevators, which were conveniently only a handful of steps away. I pressed the button, and before the elevator doors even opened for us to enter, he started kissing me. We made out, barely noticing the ding from the elevator. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw other people moving past us and into the elevator. Only then did I break that passionate kiss and lead him in. The other couple in the elevator kept to themselves, so we were able to get pretty touchy-feely as we rose to our floor. When they got off before we did, he turned me around and kissed me hard. He was good. I opened the door somewhat, having forgotten that it was obvious that a man was staying in the room with me, and my husband likes his turn right after other guys, so as a way to get rid of the guy quickly, I told him my man went to gamble at another casino, and we should have at least an hour. He seemed fine with that, and I always love a good cheating fantasy, so him thinking that I was just doing that made me even more excited. As soon as we entered into the room, we got down to business, and boy, he really knew how to make the bed springs sing. After we were done, he told me he had an amazing time with me and that he wanted to come bang me again while I was in town. It was only one night, so I gave him my number as we were getting dressed. I also texted my man, who was actually right downstairs, and told him to come see me in the room in 5 minutes. I sent the stranger on his way, promising to let him do it with me again tomorrow. I, in fact, did, as you'll see later. I then, as I'm always instructed to do, went to the bedroom in our suite, laid on my back, and held my heels with my hands, feet pointing towards the air to keep every ounce of that surprise frosting tucked safely in the cupcake. My husband loves nothing more than walking into a room to be surprised with me staying like this. He showed up not even 2 minutes later, glanced around the empty living room, then made his way to the bedroom, and oh, was he very pleased with the view. He said, "Really? Wow, you truly are a filthy little troublemaker, aren't you? Heck, I love you so much." The look in his eye was one of love and adoration. He truly admired how much I was willing to do for him to give him the used, sloppy pie that he so craved, as he often does in this situation. He didn't even waste time and went straight to banging me. The next day, we took things easy, stayed in and relaxed, and went out to a nice dinner, and then down to Fremont Street to just wander around and do a little gambling and whatnot. To the Asian girl working the big slushy stand right across from the plaza. Call me, you're sexy AF. Anyway, it was an uneventful, romantic, fun day. My stranger from the night before had messaged me that morning, but I didn't get back to him very quickly. When I messaged him again on Sunday, I never got a response. So I came on Reddit and found a guy who wanted me and wanted to come and double team me with my husband that night. We set it all up, and he was ready to come by around midnight. Since it was Valentine's Day, I wanted to show my man a really good time. After an amazing Valentine's dinner at Meow Wolf's Area 15, we went back to our hotel on the Strip, did some gambling, some drinking, and had a great time. Around midnight, we were having fun, dancing, which ended in me giving him a blowy. He had no idea what was going on when a knock came at the door, and I got up to answer it. He had a grin from ear to ear as I stood up and walked past him, only hoping what was about to happen was really happening. I led the other guy in, sat him on the couch, as my husband sat in the chair across the room. I straight up went to the stranger and did all the dirty, and then I invited my husband to join in. He was taken aback at first, but he jumped right in. After the stranger was done, he got dressed rather quickly and promptly left, leaving me and my husband in the middle of the action. It took my husband a good 30 minutes to reach the peak, but he told me how good I was the entire time. I've never felt more loved. After nearly a 2-hour session, we collapsed on top of each other, passing out until the next morning. Vegas baby. Story 7. Last night I slept with a guy because I didn't want him dating a friend of mine. So this guy I've known since high school suddenly started asking me out. I used to have a crush on him back then, but now 2 years out of college and mostly remembering how indifferent he was, it felt a little odd that he was showing interest. Then he added, "Let's all go out, just you and your friend Men, a coworker of mine who shall remain unnamed. It's been over a month since I've had a proper night out. Between work and keeping up with everything at home, there just hasn't been time. My mom and I live alone, and the upkeep of the house falls entirely on us. Ever since my deadbeat dad walked out over a year ago and hasn't sent a single cent, we've been doing it all ourselves. My mom's over 60, never finished school, and never held a job. So everything falls on me. I cover all the bills. Honestly, I needed this night out." So this guy finally shows up, half an hour late, of course. Mist and I had been waiting. "Sorry, ladies, had an inopportune customer," he says with a smirk. The rest of the night, he spends it bragging about his business and laying it on thick with Men. Buying her drinks, paying for her dinner, nothing for me, not even a token gesture. Near the end of the night, trying to salvage the moment, I smile and say, "You should show me your shop sometime," throwing in a flirty look. He just says, "Okay," no enthusiasm. He drives me home first, then I get out of the car feeling used and angry, like I was just there to fill a seat. So yesterday I gave him a call. "Hey, mind if I stop by your shop?" He said, "Sure." I got home, hopped in the shower, and changed into the most attention-grabbing outfit I could pull together. No underthings? Check. A form-hugging, sleeveless top with a little too much peekaboo up top? Check. A mini skirt that's more mini than skirt? High heels that mean business? Bold, sultry makeup? Check, check, check. I didn't exactly have a plan. Just a swirl of jealousy, frustration, and a need to feel like I was the one holding the cards. I called a cab and made my way over. The driver couldn't keep his eyes on the road. Gross? Yes, but also encouraging. If this look got his attention, maybe it'd work on the guy I wanted it to work on. I arrived right at closing time. No more customers in sight, and his last employee was just heading out. "Want a little tour?" he offered. I nodded. He started walking me through the place, rambling about inventory, suppliers, workflows. I barely heard a word while he pointed at shelves and machines. I made sure to glance the other way, and whenever he looked back at me, I made sure he got a view worth remembering. He locks up the shop, and I casually ask, "So what now?" He thinks for a second, then says, "Want to watch a movie? I just got this new Blu-ray. We can order some food." Sure, why not? We get into his car, and he immediately cranks the AC to Arctic blast levels. I'm freezing, practically shivering, and of course my nipples are making a dramatic appearance. I sit there teeth chattering, wondering why I even bothered. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about how much I kind of hate him right now. We get to his place. He lives alone and order food. He won't stop talking, going on and on about God knows what, while flipping through his messy apartment looking for the movie. And then to top it off, he puts on The Last Airbender. Seriously? That's the pick? Not even the series, the movie? Are you 5? We sit down on his couch, the room quiet except for the hum of the TV in the background. He gently places a hand on my leg. I stay still, watching him, curious but non-committal. Then he slips his arm around my shoulder. I meet his gaze, lingering for a moment. He leans in for a kiss. I place my hand on his chest and gently push him back. "Not yet," I say with a teasing smile, my tone playful but firm. "I want to set the pace." He pauses, searching my expression. Instead of retreating completely, he starts tracing soft kisses along my arm. I don't move away. I'm still curious, but I'm quiet, waiting to see what he does next. He leans in to kiss me again, and I gently press my hand to his chest to stop him. I meet his gaze, steady and serious. I said, "Slow down," I remind him, keeping my tone firm but soft. He pauses, clearly unsure of what to do next. I hold his gaze a moment longer, then let a teasing smile curl on my lips as I lightly brush his leg. That small signal is enough. He leans in again, more tentative this time. This time I don't pull away. He lifts me effortlessly, carrying me to his room with a playful grin, placing me gently on the bed. As he starts to unbutton his shirt, I tilt my head and ask with a smirk, "And what exactly do you think you're doing?" He grins back. "What do you think?" I decide in the moment to go with the flow. He continues touching me and kissing me, and things naturally progress. Eventually, we end up being intimate. But to my surprise, it's over in what feels like a flash. No protection, no discussion, and to top it off, I wasn't even done. I blink, still lying there, and ask quietly, "That was it?" Just then, the food we'd ordered earlier arrives. He throws on some clothes and hurries to the door to pay. I stay in bed, feeling disappointed and unsatisfied. Honestly, it left me feeling even more frustrated than last Saturday's awkward night out. Afterward, we ate and watched TV in silence. He offered to take me home, but I turned him down. He apologized and I didn't respond. When I left, I told him, "Don't reach out to Med. Don't call me again." I took a taxi home, and my mom was there. She saw what I was wearing and judged me without saying a word. I took another shower and locked myself in my room. I tried to sleep, but sleep didn't come. This morning I went to the pharmacy and got a day after pill, but I'm not telling him. I haven't called him, and I don't want to. He texted me this morning, but I deleted the message. I feel worthless, like I fell into his game, and now I'm completely demoralized. I don't know why I did what I did, or why I sabotaged missed chances with him. It's clear she really liked him. I feel like I've betrayed her, and myself. I feel like such an idiot. I just needed to get this off my chest. I'm such a mess. Story 8. I've made some poor decisions in my younger years, and there's one story that I haven't shared with anyone but feel the need to now. When I was 19, a friend from university suggested we take a trip to Toronto during the break in the middle of the semester. I had known her for about a year and a half, and we spent a lot of time together on campus. At first, I was hesitant because I knew my parents would be upset if they found out, and I didn't have a lot of money. She reassured me that she'd help pay for the train tickets and cover half of the hotel room cost. Eventually, I agreed when I learned my parents would be on vacation around the same time, so they probably wouldn't check in with me. Plan was to leave Monday morning and return by Friday evening. I felt confident that I was doing well in my classes and could afford to take a break for a few days. The main reason my friend wanted to go to Toronto was because she had met a guy online and wanted to meet him in person. She asked me to come along for company and as a safety measure. However, once we arrived in the city, she started becoming distant and didn't spend much time with me. Instead, she would go off with her boyfriend, leaving me to explore on my own. I started to feel a little betrayed by her actions. On Thursday afternoon, she told me she would be checking out of the hotel to stay with her boyfriend and would be extending her stay in the city. I explained that I didn't have a place to stay and had already spent most of my money, so I couldn't afford a room on my own. Her response was indifferent. She told me tough luck and refused to lend me any money. At the time, I didn't even have a credit card of my own. I was still learning how to manage finances. I couldn't understand why she acted this way since we hadn't had any major issues before. We didn't argue, yet after that moment I haven't spoken to her since. I'm not sure if she thought I was taking advantage of her or if something else was going on. I found myself alone in a city I didn't know well, unsure of where I would spend the night. With my bags in tow, I wandered the streets, feeling increasingly panicked about what to do next. Back then, there weren't data plans, so I had to search for a place with Wi-Fi to look for a cheap motel. It was also unusually cold that day, and I wasn't dressed for the weather, which made everything feel even more overwhelming. That evening, I went to a coffee shop downtown to use the free Wi-Fi while trying to hold back my tears. As I sat there, an older man, probably in his 30s, noticed me and eventually approached, asking if something was wrong. In my distressed state, I ended up telling him everything that had happened. Looking back, I realize how vulnerable I was, and I understand how easily I set myself up for a situation I wasn't prepared for. The man mentioned he was in town for work and offered that I could stay at his hotel room if I wanted. My mind was in a strange place at the time, so I agreed without giving it much thought. During the drive, he reminded me that there was only one bed and implied that I'd owe him something in return. He continued to make comments about how he had always wanted to be with someone like me, an Asian girl, and kept telling me how pretty I was. At the time, I thought he was attractive and seemed to genuinely care about me. I figured it wouldn't be a long-term thing, but at least I would have a place to stay for the night. However, as soon as we got to the hotel room, he started undressing and instructed me to do the same. I hesitated, but he made it clear that if I didn't want to go along with it, I was free to leave. Feeling uncertain, I decided to go along with it, thinking it was just a one-time thing. I won't go into the details because I have buried them away, but for the most part, he had rough sessions with me and made me feel like a piece of crap. He always told me that if I didn't like it, I could leave, and otherwise I would be his little chinky thing for the night. I'm not going to use the R word because I could have left, but I was so desperate that I decided to just close my eyes and take it. I'm not sure how long it went on, but it felt like it lasted forever. Eventually he was done, and we turned off the lights to go to bed. I must have eventually fallen asleep, but later in the night I was woken up by him. He told me to freshen up because he was in the mood for more and wanted to do it again. It felt like another round of rough session, where I was left feeling objectified. The next morning I woke up early and took a shower, planning to leave while he was still asleep. When he got up, he asked me to wait while he showered so we could have breakfast together. I smiled and agreed, but once he was in the shower, I quickly gathered my things and made my way to the exit. In that moment, I took some money from his wallet, about $450, as a form of compensation for the night. I caught the subway, made my way to the train station, and eventually got back to campus. I was worried he might try to track me down for the money, but fortunately, I don't think he ever even knew my name. When I finally got back to my dorm, I couldn't help but cry, feeling regretful and foolish for allowing myself to be treated the way I was. A friend of mine also asked for my forgiveness, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her, and I haven't spoken to her since that time. It's been years since that happened, and I've moved on to some extent. I still think about it, and it still hurts, but I also feel like I grew stronger that day. Writing about it here is giving me a strange sense of closure, though I can fully explain why I feel that way. I don't want anyone to argue over the details of what happened, because it won't change the past. I do feel like I was taken advantage of, but I also blame myself for not thinking clearly and putting myself in that situation. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had taken more money, taken a credit card, or just left the hotel room entirely. But then I realized those thoughts were only causing me more stress, so I've learned to let it go and move forward. I know deep down that taking the money was wrong, but that morning I was so hurt and angry, especially seeing how proud and confident he looked. He carried himself like he was some kind of big shot just because he'd pushed around someone so much smaller than him. I couldn't physically retaliate, so that felt like the only way I could take control of the situation. As for my ex-friend, I ended things with her after that day. She tried to reach out a few times on campus to make amends, but I shut her out. I'd see her friend requests on Facebook, but eventually, they stopped coming. To this day, I don't understand why she left me in that position the way she did. Story 9. This happened several years ago. I went to high school with this guy, and I had a huge crush on him, mostly based on how attractive I thought he was. I was the typical band nerd, studious, a rule follower, and a bit shy when it came to dating, though I definitely longed for it. I didn't really have any experience with relationships at the time. After high school, when I went to college and became more confident in myself and my sexuality, I decided to reach out to him. To my surprise, he was open to reconnecting, and we made plans to hang out one night. That night, we smoked and chatted for a while. Eventually, I ended up giving him a blowy in his truck, mostly because I still found him attractive and was curious to see how big his flagpole was. Unfortunately, I was left feeling very underwhelmed by the experience. Ladies and gentlemen, be warned, if you ever get to live out your fantasy, I still gave him his ending and went about my way after that. The next few days he was blowing up my phone, trying to schedule a time for us to meet again. We did meet one more time, same thing. I gave him BJ. He seemed to enjoy it, but at that point I had basically lost interest. To this day, he still reaches out to me, but I ignore him. I'm engaged now, and looking back, the experience wasn't as enjoyable as I had imagined. I don't regret it though, because it allowed me to experience what I had fantasized about. But the reality definitely didn't live up to the fantasy I had in my head. Story 10. It took 2 years of work, but I've got no regrets about it, and I'm sure he doesn't either. My buddy Carl, we'll call him Carl, and I have been friends for years, and I've had a serious crush on him. All my friends know I'm gay, and they're totally cool with it. One day, Carl and I were hanging out like we usually do, but over the past few years, our relationship started to get more physical, simple stuff at first, like touching and joking around. Then we moved on to light wrestling, and eventually, it escalated to a point where I almost had him in a headlock, and he bit me on the arm. I stopped, made a joke about how much it turned me on, which wasn't really a joke, and over the next few weeks we kept finding ourselves in similar situations, with him biting me on the arm, shoulder, and finally somewhere else. I finally told him, "If you do it again, I'm biting you back." By now we were pretty comfortable with each other. Even back then, he knew I was a virgin, and I knew he wasn't. I had learned what he liked from how he described his past relationships. One thing I knew for sure was that his sweet spot was his neck. He liked it bitten and sucked on. Turns out, I liked the same thing, though I didn't realize it until a couple of nights ago. He figured that out, and when he bit me again, I went straight for his neck. He seemed to freeze for a moment, becoming completely still. Then I felt his hand move toward my face. At first, I thought he was going to pull me off his neck, worried I had crossed a line. He's been seeing someone, though they're not official, just casual. But instead of pulling me away, he just moved my head so he could do the same to me. We sat there for a few minutes, just lost in the moment, exploring each other's necks. I could feel how excited he was, and I'm sure he could tell the same about me. My body was on fire at that point, and I kind of had a feeling this would happen. Our relationship had always been a bit secretive, with no one really knowing what we got up to around each other. We had our inside jokes, like trying to mess with each other during wrestling or little pranks, but no one knew how close we really were. I know a lot of people struggle with being in the closet, but for some reason this felt more thrilling, I guess. We were both sitting in his computer chair, and I was straddling him when he started kissing me. And I have to admit, he was a great kisser. Maybe it was just because I hadn't had much experience. I paused for a moment and asked him, "Are you okay with this?" He took my hand and guided it to his stiffy, saying, "More than okay, are you?" I think he knew I was new to all of this. I told him I was, and he went back to kissing my neck. Now I've got these giant hickeys on both sides of my neck that I can't even hide at work today. He picked me up, and before I knew it, we were on his bed. I was so excited I could hardly think straight. All I could focus on was the fact that my crush was making me feel this way. I was literally shaking. At that moment, I wasn't shy anymore. I wasn't worried about modesty or what he might think of my body. I just felt completely caught up in the moment. I had always worried about being judged for my appearance. I'm an average size, not too skinny or too big, but none of that mattered to me now. We were intimate, and things happened quickly. We stayed in bed most of the day, and whenever I looked at him, he would immediately kiss me or pull me close. The first time we were together was intense, to say the least. He used protection initially, but after the second time, he didn't bother with them anymore. Throughout everything, we communicated clearly, making sure we were both comfortable with each step. I had never felt such a deep connection with anyone before, physically, mentally, or intimately. The time we spent together this afternoon felt like the most intimate experience I've ever had. It's hard to believe I went so long without truly understanding what it's like to be that close to someone. As soon as he walked through my front door, he was right there with me. Unfortunately, I had to leave last night to check in at home before 3 a.m. my curfew. I'm not sure what this means for us, whether we're just having a casual connection, or if this will turn into something more, or if it will remain something private like everything else we've shared. He hasn't mentioned anything to our friends. As I sit here writing this, they're all playing C's, go acting as if everything is normal, like nothing happened. But when I look at my bedspread and remember what happened earlier, I can help but think that things aren't quite as ordinary as they seem. Story 11. Over the past few months, my wife and I discussed the possibility of exploring a new experience together by meeting another couple. We had many in-depth conversations and covered a wide range of topics as we feel very secure in our marriage of over 10 years. We had previously had a positive experience with another woman, as mentioned in my previous posts. A couple of weeks ago, I came home from work to find that my wife had downloaded an app designed to help couples meet other couples, which felt like the first concrete step we'd taken in this direction. My wife is incredibly attractive, and it wasn't long before we started receiving interest from many seemingly normal, attractive people. We eventually connected with a local couple and did our research to make sure they were genuine people. After confirming everything, we arranged to meet at a bar for drinks and then headed to a hotel. I was initially unsure of how it would go. The experience turned out to be much more comfortable than I expected. Each couple started by spending time with their own partner, engaging in intimate activities, and the night naturally evolved into a group setting. I'm straight, so I was not involved in any male-male contact, and everyone was respectful of each other's boundaries. I'm not sure what I thought I would feel when I saw another dude banging my wife, but my God, she was enjoying it so much that I couldn't help but be excited, really excited. I had a great time, and I really enjoyed watching my wife with both of the others. It was so cool. We continued for about 75 minutes, I think, and eventually just kind of collapsed into a sweaty heap. We laid there for a while, and then got dressed, sipped on some water, and just hung out like we were at a weird coffee shop or something. We went our separate ways and have continued the conversation via text messages. It was just so much fun and went better than I could have imagined. My one post-event concern was that intimacy between me and my wife would be less enjoyable after the fact. This has turned out to be the absolute opposite of what has happened. We have done it multiple times since the groupie, and man, it's better than it ever has been. Anyway, I don't have any friends who I am close enough with to tell about stuff like this, so I'm telling you, anonymous internet person. 10 tenths would recommend only if you are incredibly secure in your relationship and both of you are equally enthusiastic. Dragging a less than willing partner into something like this would kill a relationship. It worked well for us, but your mileage may vary. Story 12. This took place a few years ago, but I still find myself chuckling about it after running a quick errand to what I like to call personal Pound Town. I'm here to confess my wrongdoing and own up to the guilt, but I'm not looking for any moral absolution. Back then, I made the questionable decision to rent an apartment with my relatively new girlfriend, her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend. Two couples in a two-bedroom apartment, a perfect storm for chaos, right? But at the time, it felt like a great idea. We all shared a love for indulging in a certain herb, so it wasn't unusual for our apartment to echo with laughter and Mario Party games. In the beginning, it was a tight-knit group. A perfect family, really. But then, as it often goes, drama started to brew. Typical teenage nonsense, cleaning, chores, money, food, petty fights, you name it. Things went south, and fast. There's a lot more to the story, but it's not interesting enough to be worth retelling. It definitely doesn't end with me crowned as the undisputed king of smoking devices, name changed to protect the guilty. When they moved out, they locked our 3-month-old kitten in a closet and nailed the door shut. If you need any more reason to dislike them, that should do it. For a while, things were bearable. That is, until someone decided to turn the heat up a notch. We kept a mini fridge in our bedroom, stocked with food and plastic water bottles. One day, I grabbed a bottle and noticed the seal had been broken. A quick sniff confirmed my suspicion. This wasn't water. I checked the other bottles, and they were fine, so I started investigating. I mentioned the issue to my girlfriend and began my research. Within a week, another bottle's seal was mysteriously broken. More clues followed, and after some expert detective work, you can trust my skills, I concluded that the smell was from eye drops, probably because of that scene in Wedding Crashers where they used them to give someone diarrhea. Chad name change was a huge fan of that movie, and let's just say creativity wasn't his strong suit. But of course, this is all based on my hazy victorious memories, so who knows for sure. Once I decided revenge was necessary, I came up with a plan that felt just and honestly hilarious. I've never quite gotten over it. My grandkids will one day hear the story of a song of ice and batter. I might even get a commemorative tattoo, though I'm struggling to find a design that still feels classy. Chad had this 18-inch zong he was particularly fond of. He'd fill it with ice from a mini ice tray to get the cubes evenly dispersed. One day while he was out, I emptied the tray, refilled it with a little help from my girlfriend, and about 100 million of my potential offspring, topped it off with water, and put it back in the freezer to await its fate. The next few days were a blur of anxiety. I didn't want to laugh in their faces and blow my cover, but once I felt I could keep a straight face, I finally ventured into their room, and there it was. Staring back at me from his bong was a glob of my smoothie nestled in the glass switchbacks. More smoothie was spread throughout, and more was surely on its way as I basked in the glory of my revenge. His bong didn't get cleaned often, so I can confidently say I ruined his lungs for at least a month. I'm also thankful he never got pregnant. It's been over 8 years now, and I still chuckle every time I think about it. Sometimes I wonder if he ever complains that the weed just doesn't taste the same anymore, or how much time he spent scrubbing my legacy off that glass. Maybe I'll ask him in the afterlife. Until then, I'll cherish the memory. And by the way, in just 30 days, I'll be marrying that girl I moved in with way too soon all those years ago. I couldn't be more excited about it. Story 13. I've been feeling more excited than a kid heading to an amusement park. In 2017, I lost my husband. We were amazing together, and it was a happy time in my life. Losing him was tough, but it is what it is. About 6 months after that, I went out to a bar, had a one-time fling with a guy, and it was such a disaster that I walked 2 miles back to the bar. I haven't been with anyone since. Last week, I hit a breaking point and decided to try a hookup app. I was surprised that a lot of people were interested, even some younger guys, which definitely boosted my confidence. Unfortunately, none of them felt like someone I wanted to go out with, but then I found someone interesting. He was attractive and seemed promising. I was upfront and asked if he wanted to pick me up for a casual date, and he was on board. Now, I'm eagerly waiting for our date. I haven't felt this excited in a long time. Honestly, the anticipation is making me feel a little weak in the knees. It's not like I can tell my parents or kids how excited I am to just have a casual night out, so I'm sharing it here with all of you. Thanks for listening. I went. Had a great time, and even made plans to do it again soon. Thank you all for the concern and support. I know some people won't understand, but I'm learning to ignore the negativity. To those who feel the need to leave judgmental comments, you don't know what it's like to lose your partner, the one person who had your back no matter what. We were together since we were teenagers, and we were each other's everything until he passed away at 37. The love we shared was real and deep. Then everything changed. I had to keep going because of my kids, but it was hard when the support seemed to fade away after the funeral. Everyone else moves on, but you're stuck in the grief. And to make matters worse, I also lost my brother, the one person who was supposed to be there for my kids as a male role model. It's been a lot to carry. I couldn't save either of them, and that pain weighed on me more than anyone can imagine. There were days when I felt like giving up, but somehow I kept going. So, to those who think they have the right to judge me, please understand that you have no idea what it's like to walk in my shoes. Your comments don't define me, and I don't wish my pain on anyone. So please, enjoy your loved ones, and be kind to others. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.